There's a strange truth about the world we live in. The hardest workers are often the ones left behind. I know that sounds contradictory. Some of you might push back right away. Jim, are you saying I shouldn't try? No, I've never championed laziness. I believe in hard work, sweat, and discipline. But here's something I've learned from years of watching not just the wealthy, but also those struggling. Work without reflection is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. You pour all day long. Every drop is an extra shift, an overtime hour, a late night delivery run. You pour with every ounce of hope, but if you don't stop to fix the bucket, you're just burning out faster, not filling up. I grew up in a place where busyness was a badge of honor. The person who slept the least was called driven. The one juggling 2 jobs was praised as someone who fights fate. The one always out of breath was seen as a warrior. But I realized something that hit me hard. Many weren't fighting for their dreams. They were running from the emptiness inside themselves. Have you ever felt like that? Grinding nonstop, but still coming up short. Hustling all week, but not getting anywhere. You leave home before dawn, get back after your kids are asleep, and tell yourself, just a bit more, just a bit more. And that bit more has stretched into 5 years, 10 years. A man sat next to me after one of my talks. He wore a company uniform, hands rough from hard labor, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. He asked me, Jim, I've got 3 kids, I work 3 jobs, I haven't taken a day off, but why do I still feel like I'm slipping backward? I didn't answer right away. I just rested my hand on his shoulder and asked, when was the last time you paused to ask yourself where you're headed? And he broke down, not from exhaustion, but because for the first time in years, someone asked him the question he'd been too scared to face. Here's what's truly frightening. Not burnout, not failure, but giving up your youth for a path you never stopped to question. I'm not telling you to quit your extra jobs. I'm just asking you, carve out 1 hour a week to stop, to breathe, to think. Because if you don't make time to shape your life, life will pull you along by someone else's blueprint. You'll work for someone else's dreams. You'll follow someone else's schedule. You'll live a life of exhaustion but never feel full. There's a kind of poverty that isn't in your bank account. It's in being so caught up, you forget you once had dreams. And I hope today, even if just for a few minutes as you hear these words, you can start asking yourself, am I living or just working to get by? What am I building? Am I becoming someone or just a name on a timesheet? Because you deserve better. You weren't born to spin in a hamster cage and call it progress. You were born to think, choose, create, and build a life that matches your true values. And that never starts with being busier. It always starts when you learn to pause. What's the easiest thing in life? Staying busy. Busy enough to avoid feeling. Busy enough to avoid thinking. Busy enough to block out the most important questions. Busyness doesn't ask you to be honest. It doesn't force you to face the void inside. It's like a constant gust of wind drowning out the quiet voice inside you, whispering, something's off here. I went through a time like that. I was up at 5 a.m., answering emails, meeting clients, flying from city to city, eating on the go, barely sleeping. Everyone looked at me and called it success. But one night, after a long speech, I went back to my hotel room and stared in the mirror. I saw a man worn out to his core. And worst of all, I didn't know what I was chasing anymore. I'd let my schedule fill the space meant for clarity. And I know millions out there are doing the same. Busyness is the sneakiest way to avoid life. It lets you dodge the big questions. Am I happy? Am I living true to what matters to me? Is what I'm pouring my energy into actually taking me where I want to go? Because answering those question shirts, because sometimes you'll have to admit, I've gone too far down a road I thought was right. So we choose busyness, busy, to avoid thinking, busy to avoid feeling, busy to avoid owning up to the fact that we've lost touch with ourselves. I met a 47-year-old man who'd worked nonstop for 22 years. When his wife left and his kids stopped talking to him, he finally hit pause. He came to me after a talk and asked, "Can I turn things around? Or is it too late?" I took his hand and said, "You can't undo the past, but you can start fresh with a mind that knows what truly matters. And starting today is always braver than any trophy. You can work 60 hours a week. You can clear your debt. You can earn a big paycheck. But if there's still a nameless ache in your heart, if you sigh in the middle of the night, if you ever wonder, am I living or just checking off life's to-do list? Then maybe it's time to pause. I'm not saying drop everything. I'm saying carve out intentional time for stillness. Turn off the screen, silence the phone, quiet the rush, and sit down with a blank piece of paper. Write down what you truly want not, what you're chasing out of pressure. You might face a hard truth that you've spent years living for others' expectations. But you'll also find something beautiful. I still have time, and I can choose again how I want to live. Busyness is an easy excuse. Stillness is real courage. Do you want to live your life or just file a monthly report? Do you want to feel wholer? Just pay off the bills. Do you want to leave a legacy or just a trail of busy? I can't answer for you. I can only do what I'm doing now. Sit with you in this moment and whisper a question. Is it time to pause? Not to run away, but to come home to the real you, to the dreams you haven't dared name in years, to the truth only you can hear when the noise of the world fades. There are things you once had that now you're paying a steep price to reclaim. Not cars, not houses, not bank accounts. I'm talking about priceless things lost quietly, a morning without rushing, a meal you actually savor, a conversation not cut short by a ping, a moment with your kid not clouded by bills. You had all that when you were broke, but your mind was whole. When you didn't have much, but your heart was full. Now, you might grind 10 hours a day just to afford a short break where you still can't stop thinking about work. Do you see the irony? We trade peace for success. Then, after success, we pay to reclaim the peace we lost. We trade days of doing what we love for money. Then use money to buy back a few hours for ourselves, at the gym, in a meditation class, or in a hospital's quiet room. I've seen people earn a fortune, but they couldn't stop. Because stopping meant facing loneliness, facing the question, have I gone so far? I don't know how to find my way back. They work their whole lives and now pay a price to learn how to live. A woman approached me at a seminar in Chicago. She was a CEO of a business chain. People saw her as a symbol of success. But when we sat down, she grabbed my hand, eyes welling up, and asked, "Jim, why do I feel so lost when I have everything I ever wanted?" I looked at her, and after a quiet moment, I asked, "When was the last time you walked without your phone? When was the last time you listened to music without thinking about emails? When was the last time you looked into your child's eyes without worrying about next week's schedule?" She cried because she knew the most precious things in life aren't in deals or contracts. They're in being present. You can have it all, but if you're not truly there in the moment, you're living like a shadow racing through your own life. You eat but don't really taste. You smile, but your mind's still crunching numbers. You take a vacation, but your heart's still on a deadline. And at the end of your life, you'll sit there with all your degrees, accounts, and status and wonder. Why do I feel so hollow? I was once broke. I worked multiple jobs, but I remember days when I could sit with coffee, watch the sunrise, and just breathe. Not to recharge for work, but to be present as a persona reason needed. And I promised myself, when I make it, I won't lose those moments. I won't trade living for a checklist of living. I want you to pasana, to put off success, but to keep from losing yourself on the road to success. I want you to work, but not forget to live. I want you to be wealthy, but still have time to hold your loved ones a little tighter. I want you to reach the top, but still notice a wildflower blooming by the roadside. Because in the end, what are you living for? If all your effort leads to a day where you pay to rent back the piece you once had for free, then maybe you're investing in the wrong direction. I used to think to improve my life, I needed to do more jobs, more hours, more skills, more of what I didn't have. But then I learned a truth that stopped me in my tracks for weeks. I didn't lack jobs. I lacked purpose. I didn't lack things to do. I lacked real reasons to live. And when someone has no purpose, they fill the void with a packed schedule. They do more, but don't know why. They push harder, but don't know where it's taking them. You see, society teaches us how to speed up, but few teach us how to find our direction. And nothing's more dangerous than a hard-working person with no purpose, because they'll go far but never arrive anywhere. Picture this. You're in a desert. The sun's blazing. Sand stretches everywhere. You've got a Courant, a full tank of gas. You drive. You race. You speed up. You burn fuel. You switch directions. But if you don't know where the oasis is, you're just driving impressively toward nothing. That's the reality for millions of Americans today. They wake early. They work. They push through. But deep down, there's no clear light guiding them to where they want to be. And they burn out not from work, but because they've lost sight of meaning. I once asked a man, "Why do you work a third job?" He answered, "To pay off debt." I asked, "Once the debt's gone, then what?" He went quiet. I asked again, "If you were debt-free, what would you do each morning?" He whispered, "I don't know anymore." And that answer was why he was drained. Not from the job, but because his life lacked a story to guide his daily actions. Purpose doesn't have to be huge or world-changing. It doesn't need to be save the planet or become a billionaire. A purpose can be as simple as, I want to build a home filled with kindness. I want to be a parent my kids look up to. I want to lift up my community with hope. When you have a purpose, you have a filter. Every choice work, rest, what to say, what to learn, passes through that filter. And that purpose will help you pause when needed, move forward with clarity, and pick the right things to do. I remember a single mom in Ohio. She worked 2 jobs but spent 30 minutes every night reading with her kids. I asked why she didn't just rest. She said, "I don't want my kids to grow up thinking they only had a busy mom, not a mom who was there." She was tired, but she had purpose. And that purpose kept her grounded. You don't need another job. You need clarity on what makes your life worth living. You don't need more money. If you don't know what you're nurturing inside yourself with it, you don't need more hustle. You need more direction. When I was young, I had a handwritten note by my door. Every morning before stepping out, I'd look at it and ask, what I'm doing today, is it bringing me closer to the life I want? If the answer was, I'm not certain, I made adjustments. If the answer was yes, I moved forward with focus, not frenzy. You see, busyness is the shell. Purpose is the seed. And if you don't plant the seed of purpose every day, you'll live a life that looks full but feels empty. Here's something I've learned from years of observing and teaching. Everyone gets the same 24 hours a day, but the results are worlds apart. You have 24 hours. I have 24 hours. Einstein hat 24 hours. Oprah Winfrey has 24 hours. So what makes the difference? Not the number of hours, but how you use them. You can have a 16-hour work day and at the end feel like you've got nothing to show for it, or you can have a 3-hour morning full of clarity, focus, depth hand feel like your whole life has opened up. Time is like money. It's not about how much you have, but where you invest it. I once told a room full of young people, you don't lack time. You're spending time on things that don't match the person you could become. And that hit them hard because they thought they needed more time. But no, you need more intention in every hour you live. I had a morning like this once. I woke early, wrote down 3 things I wanted to contribute that day. I sat quietly for 15 minutes, no phone, no news, just me. Just me and a clear intention to live. And that whole day, everything I did revolved around those 3 things. I didn't do more than usual, but the impact was deeper. I didn't speak more, but my words landed stronger because I wasn't living on autopilot. I was living with intention. You see, many don't lack time. They lack a mindset to treat each hour like a seed. What you plant, you harvest. Plant confusion, harvest chaos. Plant rush, harvest emptiness. Plant clarity, harvest freedom. A woman once told me, Jim, I don't have time to live for myself. I asked, do you have time to scroll your phone for 2 hours every night? She hesitated. Yeah. I said, then you have time. You're just using it to avoid living true to yourself. That was a wake-up call, but also a chance. Because if the problem isn't no time, but how you use your time, then you can change your life with one choice. The choice to wake up 30 minutes earlier to read instead of scroll. The choice to sit down and write what truly matters. The choice to give 10 minutes a day to be fully present with your kids, your partner, yourself. You don't need a miracle. You just need to shift how you use time, and time will shift you back. I want you to do one thing today, quietly. No one needs to know. Just you and a piece of paper. Write this down. If I only had 1 hour a day for what matters most, would I use it? Your answer will be your compass. And I promise, if you follow that compass every day, you won't need more time. You'll live a life with more meaning. Busyness might make you known. Clarity will make you free. And I hope, after all we've shared today, you'll choose freedom.